All right. Well, my name is Matt Masucci. I'm a student at Ohio State. I'm a junior. I'm going to be moving around a ton up here just because I'm kind of fidgety. And I'm a political science major, and I work for an organization. I'm the Ohio Field Director for an organization called Turning Point USA. And I'll talk a little bit more about them in a second. But first I wanted to start with a story about something that happened to me on Saturday. I'm a huge Ohio State football fan, as is everybody that goes to Ohio State. And yes, like you guys said, at times Ohio State can be the enemy. Their student body and their administrative department, it's terrible. Ezekiel Elliott is the running back for the Ohio State football team, and he's the most popular player by a lot. It's not even close. And one of the things he likes to do is he likes to roll up his jersey when he plays. He kind of rolls up to about his chest, and he plays like that because that's what he wants to do. And the NCAA stepped in and said he cannot do that anymore at the end of last season. So Turning Point wanted to find a way to better reach out to Ohio State students. And we found that the most important issue for them is football. That's just all that matters there. So we built our messaging for Ohio State around how can we incorporate the football team. So we started a petition, a student petition, to save Ezekiel Elliott. It's called a crop top is what they call it. So we got Save the Crop Top. And we went around, and this was during the May semester, and we got hundreds of signatures, and there weren't even that many kids on campus. So we decided on Saturday, wow, imagine what we can do if we take this to the tailgates when there's 100,000 people in the stands and then probably about another 80,000 surrounding the stadium. So we're standing, we're on the sidewalk, we're petitioning, and we see this guy, and he's wearing a badge, and he tells us, no, you guys can't do that. You can't do that. And we said, well, why not? He said, well, you're violating trademark laws. So what trademark laws? He said, well, you're using Ezekiel Elliott and Ohio State for a profit. I said, no. We're a not-for-profit organization. Trademark laws don't really apply to us in many situations. I said, and we're not using this to profit. We're using this for educational purposes. And he said, oh, well, actually what you're doing is you're violating the university's canvassing policy. You can't petition on campus. To which I'm sure, as all of you know, we have a right to petition wherever we want on public land because the Constitution entitles us to that. It's right there in the First Amendment. And it says no law shall be made restricting that. It's pretty clear. So we talked about this with him for a minute. We went back and forth, and he took down my information. And looking back on it, I probably shouldn't have given him my information because I didn't have to. And then they kicked us off campus. They're saying we can't do that anymore. And if they see us petitioning here again, that they will call the police on us and have us arrested. So that just brings up the biggest problem that's going on in America right now, and that is college campuses. College campuses are currently the darkest place in our society, whether that be from a theological perspective where you have people falling away from morality in every way, shape, and form. And not only that, but the administrations at these campuses just do not understand the Constitution. And Ohio State's one of the better ones. You go out to Berkeley, you go out to other public schools, you'll see these little areas, and it's this wall, and it says free speech zone. This is where you're entitled to free speech on this campus, only in this little square, or on this little board where you can post flyers. Exactly.
I had quite a conversation when my son took a tour of that, and I just caught wind of it, looked it up real quick on the internet. They get very, very defensive about things when you bring those up.
Oh, absolutely. And that brings me to my first one of these little posters I brought here, which is the United States. Picture the United States as the real free speech zone. Because we all know that if you're in this country and you're on public land, you're allowed to express whatever opinion you want to express. Now, you can't run into a crowded movie theater and yell fire. I mean, that's one of the things that's expected. But if you're just out there petitioning, you have every right to be doing that. And the college campus stepped in and told us that we couldn't do that. So right now what you see is people are just blatantly ignoring the Constitution, and no one's stepping in to do anything. And the reason I believe that is because right now our younger generation, the generation that's supposed to take that next step and start taking offices, and holding office, running for office, holding important positions, they're as apathetic as any group I've ever seen in any situation ever. And that's what we're trying to change. So at Turning Point, one of the things we believe, and I heard this message actually in my church yesterday, and it talks about your spheres of influence. What's amazing about these young people is they have these huge spheres of influence. Back when you guys were in college, and which even not that long ago, back when people who are in their late 20s were in college, if you wanted to get your opinion to everybody on campus, it would have taken you forever. Now I can just pull out my phone, type something into it, and anybody who's on the internet can read it. We have access to tons of people. So at Turning Point, one of the things we believe in is using that sphere of influence, the fact that we're on a campus every day, we have social media, we have this ability to reach a ton of people. We're going to give them the side of the argument that they're not getting, because quite frankly, college students are not getting the message that this country was founded upon the idea that you should be able to do whatever you want as long as you're not hurting anybody else or restricting anybody else from doing what they want. It's very simple. So I want to tell you another story, 2 stories actually. One, I'm taking a class this semester, and the class is called The Politics of Income Inequality. And and the teacher is he's from Germany, and one of the things he always talks about is just the idea of a welfare state and all this stuff. And no one, every day we have our Big Government Sucks shirts and Capitalism Cures Poverty shirts. So on Tuesdays I wear the Big Government Sucks shirt to that class, and on Thursday I wear the Capitalism Cures Poverty shirt. But one of the things he talks about is just how, there's this disparity and no one can get ahead, and we need to distribute more and more and more and redistribute more. And what he's not realizing, though, is the reason that people can't get ahead is because we keep redistributing. I mean, capitalism, as we know, is the only system that continues to lift people out of poverty. So these college campuses are just not giving people both sides of the story. So that's where we come in. Or another example I can give. I'm taking another class this semester called Online Theater. Don't ask me how that works, because I don't know, because I always thought theater you kind of had to be in person, but apparently you can do it over the internet now. And I needed an art credit, so I figured I'd take it. And in the syllabus for this class, I was reading it, and I scrolled down, and it said trigger warning. I thought, oh boy, because trigger warning's become kind of an internet phenomenon lately, where anytime someone's saying something that might be offensive, anytime you call somebody by any pronoun, it's offensive. And they put trigger warning in front of it, so the original intent was so that veterans know, hey, there's going to be explosions here. Maybe you don't want to watch this if you suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder, if that's going to trigger you. That's what they were originally intended for. And now it's for, hey, you don't have to deal with the real world. You just sit over there. And so what it said was, trigger warning, these plays that you're reading may have adult themes. And my thought was, okay, we're all 18. We're at least. If we're in college, we're all adults. So what you're telling us is what we should be warned that we're going to have to deal with being an adult? It's crazy. And these places, no one can get a word in edgewise, because these instructors are literally only giving one side of the argument. So that's where Turning Point comes in. Charlie Kirk, who is our founder, a couple years ago had an idea. And his idea was that the reason we lost the election in 2008 and the reason we lost in the election in 2012 had nothing to do with that Barack Obama was a far superior candidate. Didn't even have anything to do with the fact that we nominated bad people. It had to do with that they organize better than we do. They just do. In the 2012 election, what did you see? You saw President Obama busing people to the polls. You saw people being rallied up. You saw things like MoveOn.org, which go crazy and getting people all riled up, and they're going to have this big event, and oh yeah, and you're going to come vote, and you're probably going to vote for the guy they tell you to vote for. So there's no organization like that on the left or on the right side. And so that's what he decided to start. He actually skipped college and started Turning Point USA. And Turning Point USA, he'll tell you this. Anytime he's given a speech, he says Turning Point USA is intended to be the MoveOn.org of the right. That's what we try to be. And we actually want to make it so MoveOn.org is the turning point of the left. That's our goal. But what we do is we go on college campuses and we set up tables, and we have a little voter registration sign on there, because for one thing, we want to get people registered to vote, and two, they can't kick you off if you have a voter registration sign, because then that's voter suppression, and that's really, really bad for them. That's not something you want to get involved with, trust me. And so we go on campus, and this last week was called the Healthcare Games. And we made this parallel of, Obamacare and socialized medicine. And we made a parallel of it to the Hunger Games trilogy. Mortgage, how it's just this big, weird government takeover that doesn't make any sense. And it's just the strangest thing ever. And one of the things that we had a poster of it was President Obama, and it just said, "I volunteer the American public, the American young people as tribute." Because that was just a line from the Hunger Games movie. And it's true. That's what it is. It's him volunteering the younger people as tribute for the older people. This week is Free Speech Week. We're talking all about this stuff. That Saturday should never happen, ever. You should never be kicked off a place for speaking your mind. Just simply giving an opinion, petitioning something where, honestly, why would they care about trademark laws? We're petitioning something that benefits them, because if he's allowed to wear that half shirt, they can sell those in the student bookstore that, oh yeah, he's wearing those half football jerseys and make more money off of it. People tune into the games. It's helping the university if you really want to look at it that way. But they're more concerned with stopping people from speaking out and doing anything against this notion of big government and controlled economies. And that's at Turning Point what we stand against. We stand for two principles and two principles only. We stay out of social issues, because we think the biggest problem right now is that the government has gotten too big in all aspects. Just plain and simple. We also think the other problem is that they're getting too much into the economy. That the economy can only really function right if the government's out of it. Another example we can use is this poster. This is a guy named Ron Swanson. He's a character from the TV show Parks and Recreation. And if you've never seen the show, the best way to sum up Ron Swanson, someone walked into the room and said, "Ron, are you doing anything important?" He said, "I work for the government. Nothing I ever do is important." And that's just, the quote there is, there's only one bad word: taxes. And the thing about the show Parks and Recreation, it's incredibly popular. Young people love it. It's incredibly popular amongst people my age. So we have this poster. We actually have a giant life-size Ron Swanson cutout that we bring with us. And people see that on campus, and they come up to us and go, "Oh my gosh, you guys have Ron Swanson stuff? Can I get a poster?" We say, "Yeah, but you got to stay and talk with us for a minute." And so then we talk about what Ron Swanson stands for. Because he is, the best way to describe him would be a libertarian, where he believes that the government should stay out of your business. He's head of the parks department in that show, and he said he doesn't do anything because he believes in a privatized park solution. I mean, he's as limited government as they come. And we talk about the message that he gives in that show, and it actually really resonates with people. Something I've always believed in is that all young people, especially this current generation with how social media works and how plugged in everybody is, they're conservative libertarians that just aren't aware of it yet. They've just never been exposed to the fact that there is another side to this issue, that the government is not your friend. They're not here to help. Like Ronald Reagan said, the most terrifying words in the English language are, "I'm from the government and I'm here to help." Because they've never once been here to help. Ever. And so once you get these young people exposed to this message, what you'll find is they like it. It's a message that really resonates with them. Excuse me. So one of the things we did was at the Ohio State Org Fair. Sorry, I'm getting that. Use this. At the student organization fair, where all the student organizations on campus go around and present their ideas. And the table directly next to us, there were at least 500 organizations there in the quad. And we got stuck next to the Bernie Sanders for President table. We had fun with that. Technically, we don't endorse any candidate. But I will tell you what we did do. We took this sign. It said, for those of you who can't see it, it's North Korea and South Korea. South Korea's got all the lights on. It looks like a beautiful city from space. North Korea, pitch black. It says communism. You can see it from space. And we put that on an easel, and we pointed it directly at them. And so as people are walking by, And they're walking by the Bernie Sanders table, and they're also just walking right by it because no one really wants to talk to them because they're yelling about socialism and capitalism's hurting the middle class and horrible, you know how they are. And we even had people go talk to them, put on a Bernie Sanders sticker, then come up to our table, talk to us, and walk away and take it off. Because once they heard about capitalism and what capitalism and limited government can do for your life, it resonates with them because it's all about, young people are all about competition, stay out of my business, things like that. You know, I know as a young person, like I have a Facebook, I have a Twitter, an Instagram, any social media thing you can name. I don't want the government looking in on that. I send text messages and it's over the Wi-Fi because I have an iPhone, I use iMessage. I don't want the government looking in on those. I'm not doing anything wrong, but the government shouldn't be looking at my stuff. They don't have a warrant. Young people believe that. One of the things we do is we walk up to people, we stand in front of our table, there's people are walking through the quad. We say, do you have a Snapchat? Do you text? And they'll say, yeah, absolutely, of course, who doesn't? We'll say, how would you feel if you knew the government was reading them? And they stop for a second and they think and they say, I don't know how I would feel. I'm assuming they already do. And we say, well, yeah, that's the problem because I don't know if you're aware of this little thing called the Constitution entitles you to the fact that the government can't go through your stuff, digital or otherwise, if they don't have a warrant. People go, yeah, you know, that makes sense. I mean, why should they look at my stuff? And it's like watching this light bulb turn on in their head of, oh, we get it now. The government shouldn't be looking through our things, even if I'm not doing anything wrong. So this message that we've been giving has just been resonating like crazy. We started at Turning Point at Ohio State, started working at Ohio State for Turning Point in early August, about a month ago. In that time, we've identified over 1,200 students who want to get involved with us and want to spread this message and want to help. And not only do they want to help, but they also believe in this cause. Some of them are just now believing in it for the first time. And they're just now exposed to it. We've gotten a lot of people that are just now believing in it for the first time. And a lot of people who have believed in it for a long time, we're getting them registered to vote. We're getting them mobilized. Turning Point, if you read it, it's hard to see on the bottom of these things, but it says identify, empower, organize. It's kind of the little slogan. It's kind of the method we use. We go to campuses, step one. We meet students where they are. We are the only organization out there right now that actually does the boots on the ground, clipboard and tennis shoes, meet people where they are for this cause. We go up and we have conversations with students none of us have ever seen before, and we ask them questions like, what do you think of big government? What do you think of the government taking your money in taxes, too much of your money? You know, what do you think of the fact that the medical device tax has made it so that biomedical engineers have a 18% unemployment rate? You know, simple questions like that. And the way they respond, you would think, oh, a liberal college campus. No. Either they don't have an opinion and they end up being swayed, or they agree with us. And they just didn't know that there was something that stood for that. So Turning Point's doing this work not just at Ohio State, not just in Ohio. This is a national organization. We have over 40 full-time field directors working in, I don't know exactly how many states. Some people have different regions, so overall everything gets covered. And they're doing this work, they're doing it every day. We have, at Ohio State, we have someone on that campus every day of the week doing this work. We have people that don't even work for this organization that are volunteering their time to help us get this message out there. So that's the identify side of it. Empowering. We are giving them the tools they need to fight this war, because this is a war. It's an intellectual war. It's not a war that's fought with guns, but it's a war that's fought with with words and brain power. We need to win it. We're giving them the tools that they need. Anybody who goes on our website, types in their name, email address, and a mailing address, we will send them this stuff. And we have some pamphlets over on those tables over there that tell you more about what we do and can give you more of a sense of what these students are receiving from us. Anybody who wants to can go online, young or old, and we will send them what's called an activism kit. And it's got everything you need to fight this war. The tools, the pamphlets, the contact cards, the buttons. We have buttons that say big government sucks or capitalism cures or I heart capitalism. All sorts of stuff like that. And what we've seen is that it's doing really, really well on college campuses. We've actually overtaken quite a few groups that were doing similar things but weren't doing it well. We've had a lot of groups join up with us, but the best thing, my favorite thing about Turning Point, because I'm big into ministry, I do a lot of ministry stuff, and I've always said with ministry, I don't care how it gets done, I just want it to get done, whether it's me doing it or someone else doing it. And that's what I love about Turning Point is we don't care how it gets done as long as it gets done. So we partner with these groups on campus. We let them use our materials. We give them our materials. We volunteer to work with them, not just make them work for us. We unite all these groups on campuses. And that's the organization part of it. We are mobilizing a base of people that can win this war. I heard people talking earlier about property seizure, talking about all these different things that the government can do to your property. It's scary stuff. And this is the first step. Because you better believe that there's going to be a next step. Once they take one right, they're not going to stop there. They're going to keep taking them until, nothing left. And it might not be a process that takes place over 5 years. It might take 50 years. But if we don't do something now to turn this around and prove once and for all that the founders were right when they said that we are all entitled to three things: the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, we will see that aggressive control that's happening turn into total control. It's just how it will be. And it might take a while too. But like I said, we have to start now. We cannot wait any longer. The current generation, yes, I'm talking about how when they hear this message, they like it. They love it. But they won't get there on their own. They can't. It hasn't happened. If they were going to get there on their own, it would have happened by now. So it's up to us. It's up to you guys. It's up to if you have kids or grandkids or anyone that would want to get involved, come up to me after. I'll give you my business card. They can get in touch with me, and I can give them advice on how to start this organization at their high school, at their college. We're always starting new chapters, new clubs every day. Partnering with clubs, doing all sorts of amazing things. In fact, I'm sure all of you are familiar with CPAC in D.C. in February. We sent over 100 activists to CPAC. They got to experience all these speakers and for me, that's how I first got my start with this organization. I got hired at CPAC when I was volunteering for them. I got to go on their scholarship program. And for me, it was absolutely the experience of a lifetime. I got to not just sit and listen to people like Rand Paul and Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio and Ben Carson and amazing speakers speak to me in this big audience and meet many of them. But I also got to see the behind-the-scenes stuff, what goes on in the exhibit room with all these different organizations that are fighting for this cause. And it gave me a lot of motivation and a lot of hope for the future because I'm only 20 years old. It's too early for me to be cynical. It's too early for me to not have hope. But before CPAC, I'll admit, I was getting pretty scared. It felt like the America I learned about in 4th and 5th grade was not the America that I was seeing. I was always taught, because my high school actually did teach it, or my middle school actually did teach us about the Declaration of Independence, about the Constitution. We learned all the amendments. We were made to memorize all the amendments. I have long since lost that memorization of those, but I know the basic points of each one of them. And I just didn't see that being the life that we were living. We weren't getting those freedoms that were promised to us. Because right now, I truly believe the Constitution is just a piece of paper anymore. They don't use it. No one looks at it. The Supreme Court sits and they make decisions one way or the other. The president sits and says, okay, this is unconstitutional, but I know the Supreme Court's not going to tell me not to. So I'm just going to push this through anyway. Congress sits on their hands. They said if only we had a Republican Senate majority and a Republican House majority, we could get stuff done. Well, I don't know about you guys, but since those midterm elections, I don't think anything's gotten better. Nothing's changed. We were promised that, if we just had Republicans in office, it would be A-okay. Everything's going to be great. We can do anything we want. We can push things through. That Keystone Pipeline will get opened up. All these wonderful things will happen. And it just didn't happen. Exactly. It's like they forget they have a majority. And it's because right now, it's not a Republican versus Democrat issue. There's Democrats that I agree with. And I'm going to start wrapping up here. There's Democrats I agree with on a lot of things because it's not a Republican-Democrat issue. It's a big government versus small government issue. Sorry, what? What'd you say? So, with that said, the problem does not exist because of party lines. It exists because of the government. So, again, I'm really excited that you guys brought me here tonight. Thank you so much for having me. If you want to learn more about the organization, feel free to approach me. I'll be here. We have a bunch of literature and stuff in the back that you guys can check out. And with that, I'll turn it over.
Thank you very much.